Hello, Mr. Malo here, your online math teacher, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to continue my video series on two variable statistics, and in particular, looking at finding the residuals of using our predicted data. So, if you find this video helpful, consider smashing the like button, subscribing, and let's go. Now, in one of my previous videos, I showed us how we can make predictions using the least squared regression line. But we want to start asking ourselves, well, how good were these predictions we made? So here was some height and weight data we had in the scatter plot, and you can see my least squared regression line, and we computed a bunch of different predictions. So now we want to know, how good are these predictions that we have? And how good they are deals with the residual values. So residual is a fancy way of saying, well, what's the difference between our observed value, the actual value, and the predicted value? So the equation that we will always use for residual is this y value minus our y hat, or the observed value versus minus the predicted value. In our case here, that is going to be weight minus predicted weight. So we are going to be taking each of the values in our weight column and subtracting the corresponding values in our predicted weight column. So say I was going to do this for the predictions I made for my individuals with a height of 70 inches tall. Then for that, my residual will be my 180 for this first data point minus my predicted value of 195.221. And when I get that, I'm left with a value of negative 15.211. So I'm just going to type that in my table here, negative 15.211. But what does that value actually represent? So we can just think about this in terms of the context. If I take my actual weight, which is 180 pounds here, and subtract off the predicted weight of 195.221 pounds, then I'm going to get the difference in between that weight and the predicted weight. But whether it's a negative value or a positive value deals with, is my actual value larger or less than my predicted value? So in this case, because my actual value, my observed weight, was less than my predicted weight, I ended up with a negative value. So what this means is the observed weight, so our weight column, was 15.211 pounds less than the predicted weight. So how does the observed weight compare to the predicted weight? The difference was 15.211 pounds, but since it was negative, my observed weight was less than my predicted weight. So this is how you would interpret a residual value. So, unlike your predictions though, residual is going to change based on your observations. So because my residual for this first data value was negative 15.211 for somebody with a height of 70 inches, that does not mean I will have the same residual for a different individual that is 70 inches tall. So because my second individual in my data set who was 70 inches tall weighed 200 pounds. So for that data value, I would have a residual of 4.779 pounds. Even though I had an individual with the same height as before, I have a different residual because the weight was different for this person. So the way I would interpret my positive residual now for this other individual who is 70 inches tall is the observed weight. So the observed weight was my residual, so 4.779 pounds. But since this time my residual was positive, instead of being less than the predicted weight, my value was greater than. So greater than the predicted weight. So I can still get a nice interpretation of it, just like before, but my greater than, less than changes. And this is for my other individual in my data set here who was 70 inches tall. So I can enter them in with a residual of 4.779. And you can do this for all the different values in our data set to get an idea on how far all our predictions were from the data. And this gives us a numerical value, so we don't just have to visualize how far away our dots are from our least squared regression line. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, consider smashing that like button and have an awesome day.